Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into some ancient Indian texts you shared, specifically looking at the lineage of the sage Bhrigu.
That's right. And it involves some, well, pretty fascinating origin stories.
Fascinating and honestly sometimes quite intense, especially when we get to a major curse that unfolds. It seems like you're interested in getting to the roots of these foundational narratives.
Exactly. And maybe understanding the why behind some of the more, let's say, unusual events described. These aren't just tales. They offer a real window into the beliefs and values of that time.
Okay, so let's map this out. We'll trace the lineage, starting from Brahma down to Bhrigu, then dive into a really dramatic story involving Bhrigu's wife Puloma and a Rakshasa.
Which leads to the birth and, importantly, the naming of their son, Chyavana.
Right. And then there's the fallout from that encounter, a fiery curse aimed at Agni, the god of fire himself.
Followed by some necessary divine intervention to sort things out.
And finally, we'll touch upon the next generation, Chyavana, Pramati, Ruru, and another quite tragic story involving someone named Pramadvara.
So yeah, get ready for some twists and turns. These stories are packed with symbolism.
Okay, let's dive in. The whole narrative sort of kicks off in the Naimisha forest. There's this big 12-year sacrifice happening, led by Saunaka.
Right, and you've got all these rishis, these wise seers gathered around. They're keen to hear ancient stories, Puranic lore.
But there's a structure to it. They don't just start asking questions randomly. They look to Saunaka, who's described as this highly respected, very knowledgeable Brahmana.
A real scholar and spiritual guide. He's the one they defer to basically lead the questioning.
And the person they're turning to for the stories is Sauti. He's the son of Lomaharshana, and he's known for his deep knowledge of the Puranas.
And it's mentioned his father, Lomaharshana, was also a famous reciter of these texts. So Sauti has this inherited credibility, he's part of this lineage of storytelling.
That's a great point. It really emphasizes the importance of transmitting this knowledge accurately. It's not just casual storytelling, it's happening in a sacred context.
Exactly. And Saunaka even sort of vets Sauti first, asking if he knows the Puranas and the Bharata well, recalling his father's recitations. It's like establishing his credentials.
Right, establishing the provenance. And then Saunaka makes a specific request. Tell us the history of the Bhrigu race.
Which brings us straight to the origin. And Bhrigu's beginning is, well, it's quite miraculous.
Yeah, not exactly conventional. The text says he was born from fire.
Yes. Produced by Brahma, the self-existing creator god, directly from the sacrificial fire of Varuna. Varuna himself being a major deity linked to cosmic order.
Wow. So born from the fire of a god's sacrifice, initiated by the creator god, that immediately signals something special about this lineage, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It elevates Bhrigu right from the start. Signifies immense power and divine connection. This isn't just any family history.
Okay, so from this fiery start, we get Bhrigu's son, Chyavana, described as dearly loved.
Then the line continues. Chyavana's son is Pramati.
Pramati's son is Ruru. And here's that interesting detail again. Ruru's mother is Gutatachi, a celestial dancer, an apsara.
Right, that link between the earthly sages and these celestial beings keeps appearing. It suggests maybe a less rigid boundary between those realms in their worldview.
And then Ruru's son is Saunaka. And this is where it gets personal for Saunaka, the one asking the questions.
Because the text explicitly states that this Saunaka is Saunaka's ancestor.
Exactly. And Saunaka is described in glowing terms, incredibly virtuous, devoted to ascetic practices, knows the law, deeply learned in the Vedas.
It really highlights the importance of lineage, doesn't it? And gives Saunaka a very personal stake in hearing this history accurately. It's his own family's esteemed roots.
You can see why he'd be curious, and his next question is very specific. Why was Bhrigu's son named Chyavana? It's not a common name.
And Sauti obliges, launching into this really dramatic story. It starts with Bhrigu's wife, Puloma, being pregnant.
Bhrigu steps out for his daily rituals.
And that's when the trouble starts. A Rakshasa kind of demon or malevolent being shows up, and his name is also Puloma.
Wait, the Rakshasa has the same name as Bhrigu's wife?
Yes, which is striking. It immediately focuses the attention, perhaps highlighting his specific intent towards her.
So this Rakshasa Puloma enters the hermitage, sees Bhrigu's wife Puloma, and is immediately filled with lust.
Right. She offers him hospitality, roots and fruits, as is customary. But he's fixated on abducting her.
And there's a backstory here, apparently, something about a prior claim.
Yes, the text mentions that her father had initially betrothed her to this Rakshasa, but then later he formally gave her to Bhrigu, and they were married according to proper Vedic rites.
Ah. So the Rakshasa feels cheated. He sees this as his chance to take back someone he believes was promised to him first. Talk about holding a grudge.
Definitely adds a layer of resentment and justification, at least in his mind.
So the Rakshasa then spots the sacred fire, Agni, burning in the hearth, and he does something quite bold.
He directly addresses the fire god. He asks Agni point blank, whose wife is this, truly? He lays out his claim, the initial betrothal versus Bhrigu's later marriage.
And he demands Agni as the witness to all to speak the truth. That puts Agni in a terrible position.
An awful dilemma. Tell the truth and risk Bhrigu's legendary anger. Or lie, which is a serious offense, especially for Agni, who embodies truth and carries offerings.
What does Agni do? He must be terrified of Bhrigu's curse.
He is. The text says he was afraid of Bhrigu, but also afraid of falsehood. The Rakshasa even pressures him, reminding Agni that he lives within all beings as a witness.
So, backed into a corner.
Agni speaks, hesitantly but truthfully. He says, yes, she was first chosen by you, the Rakshasa, but she wasn't taken by you with the proper holy rites. Her father later gave her to Bhrigu, and that marriage was solemnized correctly with Vedic rituals in Agni's own presence.
So he confirms the legitimacy of Bhrigu's marriage based on the rites.
Essentially, yes. While acknowledging the Rakshasa's prior claim, he upholds the sanctity of the Vedic marriage ceremony.
Okay. How does a Rakshasa take this?
Not well. Hearing Agni confirm Bhrigu's rightful marriage, he completely loses it. He transforms into a boar.
A boar? Wow.
Yeah, a powerful, aggressive form. And in this shape, he grabs Puloma and carries her off at incredible speed.
This is terrible. But wait, this is linked to the name Chyavana.
Exactly. As the Rakshasa is carrying her away, the unborn child inside Puloma gets incredibly angry at this violence towards his mother.
The unborn baby gets angry.
Yes. And in his fury, he slips. He falls from her womb.
He falls out. Oh my goodness.
And because he fell from the womb in this way, he is named Chyavana. The name literally means the fallen.
What an origin for a name. So the act of falling gives him his identity.
Precisely. And there's an immediate consequence for the Rakshasa, too, seeing this radiant baby fall.
What happens?
He drops Puloma, and the instant he sees the child, this fallen, bright infant, the Rakshasa is burnt to ashes. Just like that.
Wow. So the baby's inherent power, or perhaps the act itself, destroys him.
It seems so. Swift, almost divine retribution. But poor Puloma is left there, traumatized, holding a newborn son.
Understandably.
She's weeping, overcome with grief. And the text says Brahma himself, the creator, sees her sorrow.
Brahma intervenes.
He comforts her. And he notices the river formed by her tears. He names this river Vadhusara and notes that it flows right past where Chyavana's hermitage will later be.
So even her grief creates something lasting, tied to the land and her son's future.
It connects the personal tragedy to the landscape, grounding the myth. But the drama isn't over. Bhrigu returns.
Oh, boy. He finds Puloma and the baby. What does he do?
He asks her immediately, "Who told that Rakshasa who you were? Who pointed you out to him?"
And she tells him.
She identifies Agni. She says Agni revealed her identity, enabling the Rakshasa to abduct her.
And Bhrigu? He doesn't take it well, I assume.
He explodes. Filled with uncontrollable rage, he instantly curses Agni.
What's the terse?
"Thou shalt eat of all things. Omnivorous, you will consume everything, clean and unclean alike."
Wow. That seems disproportionate. Agni just told the truth, didn't he? Exactly. It's an impulsive curse born out of pure rage. It highlights the immense power these sages wielded, but also perhaps their human flaws, their capacity for anger.
So how does Agni react to being cursed to eat everything?
He's deeply distressed and, frankly, pretty angry himself.
Yeah.
He confronts Bhrigu.
He does. What does he say?
He basically says, "What did I do wrong? I spoke the truth when asked directly." Isn't that what a witness is supposed to do? He points out the sin of bearing false witness.
He has a point.
He does. He says, "I uphold justice. Why curse me for doing my duty?" He even mentions he could curse Bhrigu back, but refrains out of respect for Brahmins.
Then he explains the bigger problem with the curse, right? His sacred role.
Yes, this is crucial. Agni says, "I am the mouth of the gods and the ancestors. Offerings are poured into me during sacrifices to sustain them."
Right. The sacrificial fire is the conduit.
So how, he asks, can I, the sacred mouth, be condemned to eat all things, pure and impure? It defiles my very function, my essence.
It's a fundamental contradiction. It undermines the entire system of sacrifice.
Precisely. And feeling so unjustly cursed and fundamentally compromised, Agni withdraws. He vanishes from all sacrificial altars.
She just stops being the fire.
He stops participating in the rituals. And the effect is immediate and catastrophic. No sacrifices can be performed.
Oh, wow. That would cause chaos.
Utter distress.
Yeah.
The texts say all creatures were afflicted because the vital connection between humans and gods through sacrifice was broken. The cosmic order is threatened.
So what happens? Do they just live without fire sacrifices?
No, the situation is too dire. The Rishis and the gods, they all go to Brahma, the ultimate authority.
They appeal to the creator.
They plead with him. They explain the situation. Bhrigu's curse, Agni's withdrawal, the cessation of sacrifices. They emphasize how essential Agni is and how paradoxical the curse seems.
And Brahma, the wise mediator.
He summons Agni, he hears him out, and then he offers a really clever resolution.
Okay, how does he fix this? Can he just undo the curse?
Not exactly. Bhrigu's word, a sage's curse, holds immense power. It can't simply be erased, but Brahma reinterprets it.
Reinterprets eat all things. How?
He says essentially, look, your entire being won't become unclean. Yes, the curse stands, you will consume all things, but this will happen through flames other than your pure sacrificial mouth.
What other flames?
Brahma clarifies. Your flames that exist in, say, the digestive systems of creatures, or in consuming impure things like corpses. Those parts will fulfill the all-eating aspect of the curse. But you, your primary form, the sacred fire receiving offerings, Chyavana Agni, will remain pure.
Ah, so it's like differentiating aspects of Agni. Some parts eat everything, but the sacrificial part stays pure.
Exactly. He said the sacrificial flame will actually sanctify everything it touches, rendering it pure. So the curse is technically fulfilled, but Agni's essential sacred function is preserved.
That's actually brilliant. It respects the curse's power, but finds a way to maintain cosmic order.
It's a classic example of finding balance, of dharma being upheld through nuanced interpretation. Brahma then tells Agni to resume his duties, receive the offerings for the gods.
And Agni accepts this.
Yes, he's relieved. The sacrifices are restored, joy returns to the worlds, and the crisis is averted. Agni's core purity is affirmed.
Okay, so that major crisis is resolved. The Bhrigu lineage continues after all this.
It does. After Chyavana, we have his son, Pramati,
And Pramati, again with the celestial dancer Gritachi.
as a son named Ruru.
And Ruru is the father of Saunaka, who is Saunaka's ancestor, bringing us back.
Right. But the focus shifts here to Ruru himself, and a particularly poignant story involving him.
Okay, what happens with Ruru?
Well, first we get the origin story of the woman he loves, Pramadvara.
Pramadvara. Her origin is unusual, too.
Quite. She's the daughter of a rishi named Stulakesa and another celestial dancer, Manaka.
Manaka, another Apsara involved in these births?
Yes, and Manaka apparently abandoned the baby girl near Stulakesa's hermitage.
She just left her.
Seems so. But Stulakesa found her, felt compassion, and raised her as his own daughter. He named her Pramadvara because she was exceptionally beautiful and virtuous.
So another unusual birth, raised by a sage. It's almost a recurring theme.
It really is. Anyway, Ruru sees Pramadvara at the hermitage someday.
And falls in love?
Instantly smitten, deeply in love.
Yeah.
His father, Pramati, sees this and approaches Stulakesa to arrange a marriage.
And Stulakesa agrees.
Readily. He's happy to give Pramadvara to Ruru. They set the wedding date. Everything seems perfect.
Oh no, I sense a but coming.
A tragic one.
Yeah.
Just a few days before the wedding, Pramadvara is playing with her friends, laughing, happy,
Yes.
and she accidentally steps on a sleeping snake.
Oh no.
The snake bites her instantly with deadly venom, and she dies. Just like that, right before her wedding.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. After finding love with such a virtuous character. Just sudden tragedy.
It's incredibly sudden and sad. The text describes the grief of all the rishis who were gathered there, and especially Ruru's profound sorrow. It's a stark reminder of fragility and fate.
Wow. What a journey through this lineage. From a fiery divine birth.
Through that intense drama with the Rakshasa, the naming of Chyavana, the curse on Agni,
The clever resolution by Brahma, maintaining cosmic balance.
and then ending on this deeply personal tragedy for Ruru.
It really covers a huge range of experiences. Divine power, human emotion, cosmic order, personal loss. You were hoping to understand these foundational stories better.
Yeah, and this deep dive really shows how they weave together explanations for names like Chyavana, justifications for cosmic roles like Agni's, and these very human, very relatable stories of love and loss.
That resolution for Agni's curse is particularly interesting, isn't it? How it balances the power of a sage's word with the absolute necessity of the sacrificial system.
It really is. It speaks volumes about the need for balance and finding ways for seemingly contradictory things to coexist within their understanding of the cosmos. And the tragedy of Pramadvara, it hits hard. Even now, it adds that layer of human vulnerability to these epic narratives.
Absolutely. It makes you think about how these stories shape not just understanding of the world, but maybe also ways of coping with its unpredictability. Having explored all this, what other questions does it spark for you? Maybe there are other threads in these texts we could pull on in a future deep dive.